Hey guys, welcome back to Mishmiss. We are going to be talking about brushes today. You guys are always asking about brushes, and I'm really excited to share with you 10 of my favorite face brushes. So I have 5 synthetic brushes, 5 natural haired brushes, and this video is in collaboration with my very, very good friend here on YouTube, Nicole. Her channel is Yayornaynicole, and she is going to be talking about 10 of her favorite eye brushes, 5 natural, 5 synthetic. We thought that that would just be fun and kind of a challenge for us to do. We both really enjoy natural haired brushes, but we were talking and I said, you know what, there's a lot of synthetic brushes that I enjoy as well, and people are asking for alternatives, and I don't know, I feel like I'm always showing natural haired brushes because that is my preference, but there are some synthetic haired brushes that I do enjoy, which I do want to share with you today. So Nicole has a fantastic channel. So she is just over 50, but she looks like she's 30. She has the most incredible skin, the most incredible hair. She has the most beautiful smile. She's like a bright light here on YouTube. She's so positive. I love her energy. She just always makes me smile every time I watch one of her videos. And her channel is like beauty focused, but it's also lifestyle. So she's done like cooking videos. She's done like beauty treatment videos. She did a Kai Bella video. She's done some hair care videos. She's done unboxings. Like, she just has such a great, fun variety of videos on her channel. Definitely check her out. I'm going to link to her down below in my description box. I actually found her through Jen Loves Reviews. Jen Loves Reviews recommended her, and I went over to her channel and I've been hooked ever since. But like I said, she's just this like bright spot on YouTube. She just emanates positivity, and her videos are so rich. Like, she did this Kogan video, and she took the time to take her camera to, I believe it was Neiman Marcus, and she took footage of the Kogan counter. And so I texted her, I was like, oh, I love that footage of the Kogan counter at Neiman Marcus. That was so awesome. You know, blah, blah, blah. I never think to do that. And she replied to me, she was like, oh, I was all done with the video. And I thought, oh, wouldn't that be great footage? So I hopped into my car, I ran over to Neiman Marcus, and I took that footage. I was like, girl, I'm like, you are just thumbs up. And that's just so her, like, she's just all heart. So definitely give her channel a look. A link will be down below in the description box. But let's go ahead and jump into my favorite brushes. So I used as many of these brushes as I could putting on my makeup today. I focused on the synthetic haired brushes because I feel like I'm always showing natural haired brushes when I'm doing my makeup or whatever. But like I said, there are plenty of synthetic haired brushes that I enjoy, especially for face. So why don't I go ahead and start with the synthetic haired brushes? I feel like that probably makes the most sense. Okay, so the first brush I want to talk about is the newest brush to my collection. Yes, the newest brush to my collection here, at least out of the 10 that I'm going to be talking about. And this is the BK Beauty 101 brush. This is the brush that I have really come to love to apply my foundation. It has such a wonderful angle, and I think I fell in love with this when I was using a foundation that was a little bit too deep for my skin tone, and I had to bring it down my neck. And when I started to do this, I was like, oh my God, this brush is amazing. It's like perfect for this action. I mean, it's great for the face, obviously. It's just got the most amazing angle, but it really just, without much effort, it gets right underneath your chin, and it's awesome. It's super soft. It has the right density. It doesn't pick up too much product. I feel like it really leaves enough on my skin. It doesn't like eat product up, is what I'm trying to say. And it's just wonderful. And I have just been loving this. And I'll link to all the brushes down below in my description box if you're interested. But that's the first brush I wanted to talk about. The second brush I'll talk about is another like foundation type brush, but it's a different shape, so it can be used in different ways. I didn't get a chance to use it on my face this morning, so I don't have any footage of me to show you using it. But this is the Kogan Perfect Foundation Brush. So this is more of like a flat top kabuki brush, and there's something about these bristles. Usually when I play with like synthetic haired brushes, they're very, very soft, and sometimes some feel a little slicker than others. I don't like ones that feel too slick or too plasticky or too soft. When there's no body, they're kind of ineffective. Anyway, this brush, when you run your finger over it, it feels like velvet. So there's a lot of grip to these synthetic bristles, which I really, really like. So this is another one that's great for foundation, but because it's like a smaller size, see how it's a little bit more petite? So it's great for like smaller spaces, or if you're using cream products and you really want to buff them in, maybe a highlight, whatever it is. I just find this brush to be really, really handy. And I'm like so fascinated by the texture of these bristles. Like I said, they're velvety, so they're a little bit grippy and it feels so soft. I've even blended in like concealer with this brush. It's so soft, and it's a great like multi-use brush. So this is the Kogan Dough Perfect Foundation Brush. Another cream product brush that I have been using and loving for a very long time, and every time I use this, I get a comment asking me, which brush was that? I was on the hunt for a Zoeva, let me see if I can find the Zoeva brush, yeah. I was on the hunt for a dupe of this Zoeva brush. This is the 110 Face Shape Brush. This is the one that Lisa Eldridge uses all the time, and Zoeva, up until recently, was very difficult to find in the US, if at all. You could order from their site, but the shipping was quite expensive, which is how I ended up with this brush. I was like, forget it, I'm just gonna order it. And this is a great brush, but I didn't choose this brush because it's difficult to find. Although I think Ulta now carries Zoeva. I don't know if they have this brush. Anyway, if they do, I'll link it down below because this is a great brush. But the one I want to show you is one that you can easily find here, and one that I think is a really great dupe for that Zoeva brush. And this is the Smashbox Cream Cheek Brush. And well, let me hold them up next to one another. It's just a little bit less domed than the Zoeva brush, and the hair length is a little bit longer, but they perform very similarly. And today I use this to blend out my cream contour, and it's great for cheek products. It's a great multi-use kind of cream brush. I can use it to blend in concealer, any kind of cheek products. All three of these synthetic brushes that I'm talking about for cream products, none of them like eat up a lot of product, which I really enjoy. And if you're someone that likes to work with like smaller brushes, this is also great for foundation. So if you're someone that doesn't necessarily apply foundation all over your face, maybe you kind of do like the spot area, you just kind of do the center of your face maybe, this is a great brush for that because it gets into the crevices and you can work like small areas at a time. It's wonderful. I love this brush. It's really versatile, and I usually reach for this brush when I want to apply like a cream cheek product. So that's the Smashbox Cream Cheek Brush. The next brush is my favorite synthetic haired powder brush, and that is the Lemare powder brush. This guy is so amazing. I used it today to apply my powder. It's so soft, but really it's the shape and like the domedness of this brush. It's so gigantic, so it makes really quick work of applying powder, but because like it's packed just dense enough, like I can pounce and sweep and buff. So a lot of powder brushes that I have, I like to either pounce or either sweep or either buff, but I feel like this brush can do all of that. I really like pouncing powder on when I'm setting powder. This does a great job of that. It's just dense enough for that. And then it's also like just loose enough that I can use it to sweep as well. And it's great for buffing. I have a natural hair brush that I'm going to talk about that I like a little bit more in terms of finishing powder and buffing. But in terms of buffing and this brush, what I like to use it for is like softening up edges and things like that. I'll reach for this brush a lot to just kind of, you know, like blend my highlighter in a lot. My highlighter sometimes, I just feel like it always looks like a stripe until you really blend it out. And I'll use this brush for that. Sometimes I'll have a little bit of my face powder left over, and it just really helps with the softening of that. So I really love this. I mean, it's just magnificent. Magnificent brush. The last synthetic face brush I want to mention is this Real Techniques faux blue squirrel hair brush. And this is the B02. There's like a whole line of brushes made out of this synthetic hair that was created to mimic blue squirrel hair. And of course, I was very intrigued by that. And so this is the first one I tried. I have some other ones, but this one is still my favorite. It is a great blush brush. I like the amount of product it picks up. I like that it can pick up harder to pick up blushes, and it lays down product beautifully. It really just buffs it out. It really makes it very airbrushed and like blown out immediately. Like as soon as you put it down, as soon as you start sweeping the brush over, it just kind of like dissipates the blush over your cheek oh, it's lovely and it's very, very soft. And I love this shape of the brush because it is a round ferrule. So I feel like I can buff blushes in, but because there's like a little bit of a tip here, so there's some angling there, I feel like I can also sweep really easily. And what I really like about this brush is the weight. It's like weighted really, really nicely. And yeah, it fits, it just feels good. You know, it feels good to use. It just fits in my hand really, really nicely. Yeah, I just love it. I love using this brush. So this is the Real Techniques B02 blue squirrel hair brush. All right, so moving on to my natural haired picks. All of these you've seen me use like a gazillion times. The first one I want to mention is the Xoxo Z1 brush. This guy I use just constantly for powder application. It's like always here in my vanity. I feel like it's very much like my lemare brush where I feel like I can pounce really easily and then I can swipe nicely. And I also use it very often to like soften up, you know, cheek products if they don't look blended enough. And this is made out of squirrel hair. I don't know if it's blue or gray, but it's incredibly, incredibly soft. It's so minky feeling. Oh, it's just wonderful. If you have sensitive skin, I would definitely recommend this. It feels like nothing on the skin and it just applies powder like so evenly. I feel like it takes so much work out of applying powder because it just does it really, really quickly. I don't feel like it's ever patchy or that I have to like really buff it in at all. This is just wonderful. So that's the Xoxo Z1 brush. Oh, and just let me hold it up for comparison. I was talking about how giant the lemare brush is. You can see how giant the lemare powder brush is. The next brush I want to talk about is one that I did end up using to apply some bronzer to my face today, and that is the Sony G Sculpt One brush. This brush was like a game-changing, life-changing brush for me. I ordered the Sony G Fundamental set, which was her very first brush release, and I was so intrigued. I was so intrigued by her because of her blog. I was so intrigued by these brushes. I mean, they were so beautiful. It was like we had never seen anything like them before. We still haven't seen anything like Sony G brushes. But I thought to myself, oh, I'm not going to use that fan brush too much. I'm not really a big fan of fan brushes. But when I got it, I was like, wow, this is a really substantial fan brush. I was so used to fan brushes being really wispy. You know, I would see people apply highlight and they would just, you know, flutter the fan brush over their cheeks. And I thought, I don't really like that. Like I really like working my product, buffing the product into my skin. So when I started playing around with this brush, it was like, oh, like the heavens opened and I was like, I am obsessed with this brush. It is perfect for contouring. It was like the easiest forehead contour ever. Like you never end up with like that bronzer helmet. It fits right underneath your cheeks. And as soon as you start to angle it a little bit, and so you don't make it quite as like sharp and thin, you can apply a product in a much larger area. Sometimes I'll use this brush to like really blend out product if I want to, you know, just sweep it across my cheek like this. It is so amazing. This brush really like changed my makeup game. Like I was never really a big contour bronzer person around my forehead. I would kind of like brush any kind of like leftover bronzer I had on my face, but I was always so terrified of having that bronzer helmet or just, you know, having it not really blended in, you know, nicely. And oh, this just takes all the work out of it. It just does it perfectly. I love this brush so much. So that is the Sony G Sculpt One brush. And this, by the way, is undyed goat hair. All right, so the next brush I have a bit of a long story. It's not that long, but this brush is absolutely wonderful for cream products, and I love using it for concealer. This is the Trish McEvoy number 55 Deluxe Blender Brush. This is sable hair, and I know a lot of people always ask me, they're like, it seems awfully big for concealer. And I'm like, it just works perfectly. It's like I'll use it at this angle, and then I'll just angle it. It's just great, and it just blends it out beautifully. And you guys know how much I love sable hair. It just spreads product so effortlessly. I just love it. I love this brush. And I purchased this brush because I originally had this Giorgio Armani brush. I loved this brush. This was probably, I want to say, one of the first like nice brushes I ever purchased. And this was back maybe in the early 2000s. I was like wow, this brush is awesome. And way back then, all I ever wore was like concealer around my eyes. And long story, but I loved this brush. Giorgio Armani has since moved over to synthetic hairs, and it just wasn't the same, and I didn't like the new version of this, but this one was really kind of getting old, and I was like terrified of not having a brush like this anymore. And I spoke to an Armani sales associate, and they were like, don't tell them I told you, but go over to Trish McEvoy. And I was like, oh, really? So when I went over to Trish McEvoy, I started describing this brush, and they were like, say no more. And they took out this brush, and I was like, oh my God, that's it. It's like exactly the same, and it's sable hair. So I purchased this brush, and I just love it. It's such a great multi-use brush. It's almost like the natural hair version of this brush. I don't think I would buff product too much in with this one. This one is really great for actually applying or spreading out product, but it's great also for just like getting concealer into like the nostril area or like laying down product. It's just awesome. I just love this brush. It's just a great little tool. It's the perfect shape. And in fact, when I went to Japan, let me see if I can find it. Here it is. I found this brush and I thought it was going to be very, very similar. It's just not the same. So this is the Chikuhodo G12 brush. So, right, they look kind of the same, but do you see how much thinner it is? And just the fact that it's a little bit thinner, it just doesn't work the same. I think it's because I use the tips of this bristle so much to kind of blend concealer out, which you can't do with a brush this flat. Like this one is really just for spreading and for laying down product, where this is a little bit more versatile because of how thick this is. Oh, it's just awesome. Awesome. I love this brush. The next brush is definitely very, very new to me, but it's reminiscent of a brush that I have missed so much. So this is the Refer P24 brush, and this is their like dense cheek brush. So they have one that is more like traditional. It's a little bit looser packed, it's a little bit fluffier. This one is dense. Now this one picks up product very, very easily for those like big gelée products that are a little bit difficult to pick up. This will pick it up, not a problem. The lay down of the product is a little bit stronger. You guys know I really like a strong cheek, so I really, really love this. And because of how dense the bristles are and because of the shape of it, it's really nice to like use to buff as well. But this brush reminds me a little bit of Tom Ford 6 cheek brush. Now this is much newer. I think once I use it as much as I've used this one, it's gonna kind of fluff out like the Tom Ford, but it's a little bit looser packed than the Tom Ford. The Tom Ford is like really, really super, super dense. This one has like a nice, like a little bit of a looser feel than the Tom Ford, but very reminiscent. And so I was so, so happy when I saw this because I really love this Tom Ford brush, but they've since moved over to synthetic hairs. And so you can't get these anymore. This is one of the natural haired ones. And so I was thrilled when Refer came out with this one because it is undyed goat hair. I just love how it lays down product and how like easy it is to kind of like buff out. It's just gorgeous. So that's the P24 Refer cheek brush. And then last, but definitely not least, you guys knew I was gonna be talking about this brush. This is the Sony G Face One brush. I love it. This was another, much like this Sculpt One brush, this was a game changer. This like completely changed my whole like finishing powder game. I had a couple of powders in my collection that I just did not like. The Sicily powder, I did not like. And when I used it with this brush, as a finishing powder and I buffed it out, I was like, oh, okay. Okay, this is how you use this powder. It is glorious. And it's this brush. This brush burnishes powder so that you get this beautiful, beautiful sheen to your skin. It is just absolutely stunning. And I don't personally wear a lot of powder foundation, but I've heard a lot of people talk about how applying powder foundation with this brush is just the bee's knees. And when I spoke to Sonia, she told me that she kind of created this brush for like mineral foundation. She just had never ever come across a brush that she was satisfied with to apply her mineral foundation or to apply like hourglass powder. She just felt like they always looked like they were just kind of sitting on your skin. They weren't blended in. And I agreed with her. The hourglass ambient lighting powders, those were another powder that I liked, but it wasn't until this brush that I loved, you know, like it was this brush that really, really made the difference. So for finishing powders, for sure. And I also love this. I mean, this is a very specific purpose, but I'll mention it. I have that Sicily Blur Expert powder. Let me get it. It's this guy. It is like a baked brick in here. It is a very dense kind of like baked powder, and this brush picks it up easily, and I like using this powder before I put down foundation. It sort of like smooths your skin out. It's like a great primer. Anyway, this brush applies it like really evenly, like exactly what you need in terms of a powder before foundation. It just lays it down evenly, it buffs it in. It's just absolutely perfect. This is just one of those game-changing brushes, the Sony G Face One. All right, well, that is it. Those are my 10 favorite face brushes, 5 synthetic, 5 natural haired. Definitely check out Nicole's video. I'll link it down below in my description box. Let her know I sent you over there. Show her some love, and I will see you guys in tomorrow's video. Bye.